Hey fellas, how's it going? I'm a bit late with this video because, well, I wanted to make sure that everything I was changing was 100% the best it could be. But I finally got to that point, so here we are. I've suggested some balance changes for Engineer already, but I think it's time to add Pyro. Now, it's no secret that throughout history, Pyro has been really bad when it comes to balance. And even to this day, 9 years after the game's come out, its fundamental abilities are still very much in question, so I decided let's go ahead and try to fix it. When I look at Pyro, I see a lot of missed opportunity. The weapons this class has can make for some really amazing choices when playing Pyro, but they really just feel tired and really uninspired these days. My overall changes to the Pyro. Either a 5 to 10% air blast speed penalty, or a 5 to 10% air blast radius penalty. I'm leaning more towards the radius penalty. When I discuss the topic of balancing Pyro, the main complaint is Air Blast. I really do like it as a concept, but I think the main goal of a Pyro should be to reach Air Blasting perfection, and for the most part that's already the case. But you really get that mini crit damage for nothing, really. I mean, it seems pretty easy to Air Blast nowadays, and that's kind of unacceptable. It is an overall nerf, but it makes air blasting projectiles less prominent and more skillful, thus raising the Pyro's learning curve, which is really something we need more of. The Degreaser. Here are the current Degreaser stats. And here's my changes. I'm keeping the plus 60% faster switch to speed and plus 30% switch from speed, but I'm also adding 100 ammo to the starting pool of ammo, so you have 300 ammo. I'm adding a 10% damage taken from explosives, so that's a nerf, and then minus 20% damage overall from the weapon, and minus 66% less afterburn damage, giving you about 1 damage per tick. The goal of these changes is rather apparent. Make the Degreaser great for air blasting on its own. The extra 100 ammo gives you 4 more air blasts at 25 ammo cost. The switch speeds were added to make flare bunching pyros harder, so I'm keeping those. The nerfs are pretty clear as well. If you miss an air blast, you're going to take 10% more damage from that rocket or pill or any explosive. The 20% damage penalty and the afterburn damage penalty is just to really keep the Degreaser in check. We don't want it to be too good standalone, we want it to be focusing on air blast. The Backburner. Here's the Backburner's current stats. And of course, my changes. It still guarantees critical hits when attacking from behind, but now you have minus 50 ammo on the weapon, giving you 150 ammo. Air Blasts are still going to cost you 50 ammo, and it does not get random crits, although you could just remove random crits, Valve. What an idea! My changes to the Backburner give it a bigger focus on the backburning instead of air blasting, which no one really does anyways, or W plus M1ing, which is the real issue with this weapon. It makes this weapon a tad more difficult to use, but it still gets to keep its crit ways. And if you know me, you know that I don't like the fact that Pyro is so focused on crits. The Phlogistinator. Here are the current stats for the Phlock. And here are my changes to the Phlock. The Phlock now kind of acts like a vaccinator. It has 3 charges that can get filled up by 100 damage being dealt by the weapon, not by a secondary, not by a melee. The first and second charges can be used before having all 3 charges to give you 50 health. Using the third charge will use all of the charges, but it will refill your health and ammo and grant you crits for 8 seconds. To nerf this, I have added a minus 90% healing from medics and dispensers, and there's obviously no air blast on the weapon. This really makes the Phlock focus on being an ambush and survivability weapon. If you have the first charge, you can use it for 50 health. If you have the second charge, it will use both charges but give you 100 health. And the last charge fully heals and refills ammo, also giving you crits for 8 seconds. The nerf keeps you from just sitting with a medic or a dispenser. It makes you have to go get those health kits, which really hits home that this is an ambushing weapon. It's made for you to be somewhere where the enemy doesn't quite expect you to be, and if they do find you there, you're gonna kill them. The Flare Gun. Here are the current stats for the Flare Gun, and here are my changes. You still ignite enemies when you hit them, but it does not give you crit damage anymore. Instead, it will give you mini crit damage on burning targets. There is now also the thing that targets must be burning from a primary weapon of Pyro to enable the extinguisher. We'll get to that later. My only change is really just to remove the crit damage from the flare gun. Instead of pop-shotting people for 90, you can only pop-shot them for about 40 to 50, preferably 50. This also opens the window to hit someone with a full crit from the extinguisher. Like I said, we'll get to that change later. The Man Melter. Here's the current stats for the Man Melter. And, of course, my changes. Alt firing will extinguish your teammates, and it will give you plus 15 health up to 210 health. You do not require ammo, your projectile speed is 50% faster, you have a 20% slower firing speed, and no random crits. I never really understood why this weapon gave you crits, it's kinda weird. I don't mind it, but clearly it doesn't make it worthwhile to use. So, I've changed a weapon to allow you to have more health, such as the Eyelander. You don't get a speed buff with this one, though. This really is to just work well with supporting or defensive pyros, although it can work very well with an offensive playstyle as well. The Extinguisher / Postal Pummeler. Here are the current stats for these weapons. And of course, here are my changes. Deals critical hits on players hit with a primary weapon and secondary flares. If the user is not hit by both of those weapons, the Extinguisher only does base melee damage, which is also lowered by 33%. If you hit someone with both primary flames and a flare gun shot, you will now have the ability to fully crit them and really give you the last piece to this puzzle. This really makes the Greaser Flare Gun Extinguisher combo live again, which I love. But hopefully in a more fair to fight way? You can tell with how the weapon is that Valve has no idea really how to deal with the item right now, or they just wanted to get it out of the way so people would stop complaining. The Homewrecker / Maul. Wow, there's a lot of reskins for these melee weapons. Alright, well here's the current stats for these two weapons. And here's my changes. Able to remove Electro Sappers. Removing an Electro Sapper from a friendly building will grant the user plus 15 health, stacking to 210 max. 25% less damage on players. Same principle as the Man Melter, but this is a lot more support-oriented. It's really to encourage teamwork between pyros and engineers a lot more, and these can stack with the Man Melter's health-raising ability, but is still capped at 210 health. Any more than 210 is just going to be way overpowered. The Power Jack. Here's the current stats for the Power Jack. And here are my changes to this weapon. On kill restores 25 health, plus 15% faster move speed on user when active. Upon making weapon active, user loses 25 health. User marked for death on weapon active. All numbers are subject to change in these videos, but my main challenge with the Power Jack was really figuring out how to nerf it without nuking it. Power Jack is a great utility weapon, and it's by far the most used melee right now, but hopefully with my changes that stops, and there's a little more versatility in a pyro's arsenal. And finally, the Third Degree. Here are the current stats for the Third Degree. Kinda boring. And of course, here are my changes. Damage transfers to all players connected by medic beams, but now there is a minus 10% attacking speed. The Third Degree is really a weird weapon, kind of an enigma. It really flies under the radar for the most part for the fact that the Power Jack just overshadows it. When you look at it though, you can see that it is a straight upgrade from the stock Fire Axe. So I added the slower attacking speed to counteract that issue. So there you go. My changes to Pyro. It's taken me a while to get these changes refined and working, but I really hope the wait was worthwhile for you guys. If you have any changes you'd make to my changes, or just some ideas to bounce around, then feel free to post those down in the comments. As per usual, if you enjoyed the video, hit that shit with some love in the form of a like button, and subscribe to see when I post more bullshit. Until the next video, see you later, fellas.